Gwinnett County Public Library presents Photography 101. My name is Ashley, a Learning Lab specialist at GCPL. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the basic setup for the DSLR Canon Rebel. This can be used for both video and still images. If you want to learn more about what these settings mean and how to control operating the camera, check out our other Photography 101 videos. First, we're going to see how to take the lens off and on. Right here is the lens release button. You want to grab the lens and push that. Then rotate the lens away from the button. You can now see that there's a white and a red circle. On our lens, we'll see if it has a white square or a red circle, and we'll line them up. And then rotate it towards the release button until you hear a click. Next, we're going to make sure that we have a battery, a memory card, and we know how to put the camera on a tripod. So on the bottom of the camera, open the battery compartment and push that little lever up. The battery will come out. It will have an arrow that will point the direction that the battery should go in. Push it in until this clicks, and then push the battery compartment closed. To put the camera on the tripod, every tripod has a little release plate, and you screw that onto the bottom of the camera. Screw this by hand until it's slightly tight and center this. Then grab a quarter to slightly tighten. On the tripod, make sure the top is all the way loosened and put the release plate into the top of the tripod and tighten. Then you can use the various other settings to righty-tighty, lefty-loosey, set up the camera the way you'd like. Okay, so next we want to make sure that we have a memory card. On the right-hand side here, you push this latch forward to access the memory card slot and pull out your memory card. Most of the memory cards at the Learning Lab will be SD memory cards. This specific one, a micro SD, which is this tiny one, and it's 32 gigs. So you need this little adapter to stick it into before then putting it in the slot, pushing it, and locking it in place. Then you want to switch on the camera at the top here. And then we want to go into the menu and we want to reformat our memory card. So go up here to where it says Menu, and we want to go to Function Settings, which we can just press the screen or we can use these arrows. Press OK. And then it says Format Card. So I press Set. Okay, it says all data will be lost. Okay, so you want to make sure that anything you need off of your memory card is taken off. When you format your card, it will erase everything. And this is important because you want to reset your card so that it makes it less likely to corrupt as people are using it over and over again. So press OK. And now your card is ready to be used. Next, we'll take a look at the attachment area, which is on this side of the camera. So this side of the camera, these will pull up. And here is where you'll attach the microphone and a headset. And then here is where you can connect the charger or an HDMI. So if you're shooting video and you want to attach a microphone like the Rode mic, you'll stick it in here and then attach it on the hot shoe here. Next, we'll talk about the basic settings that we need for video and for still photography. First, for video, you need to make sure that the camera is set on video by setting the top to the movie icon. Then if I come down to the menu, when I go into shooting settings, the settings will be for movie recording. So I can either press the screen or I can press the buttons over here. And there's lots of different settings. For most of the time, the settings that you will need will be full HD, 29.9 frames per second. And here you can see that's 1920 by 1080 pixels. And it's going to record it as an MP4. So that's perfect. We'll press set. For white balance, we'll keep it on auto. For this camera, that's the main setting that we need to do. To exit, you can just press the shutter button halfway down, and you can see that we're in the movie mode, and we have 29 minutes and 59 seconds to record on those settings based on how much space we have in our memory card. To shoot still photography, we'll change this top setting to just on instead of video. And then now when we go into our shooting settings, it will have still image settings instead of video settings to place here. So the main settings that we would like to set for still photography are image quality. So here, L, M, S are all JPEGs, and the little icons next to them let you know how good a quality they are. So large will be the highest quality, S will be the lowest quality. And as I set them, you can see this is 6,000 by 4,000 pixels. S is about 3,000 by 2,000 pixels. Then you can also shoot RAW and JPEG at the same time, or you can shoot RAW. So if you know how to shoot RAW, go ahead and press RAW. If you aren't sure how to shoot and process RAW files, press L, and then set OK. So toggle over to the 3 in your shooting menu, and we would like to set the color space. There are two options, sRGB and Adobe RGB. If you're shooting RAW and you know how to process those files, and if you ever want to print the images that will be shot, you want to select that to Adobe RGB. If you're shooting in JPEG and you're not sure how to process RAW files, then select sRGB. Then you'll just select auto white balance for white balance. If you're shooting in RAW, you can change this later when you process them, but either way, digital cameras do a pretty good job of setting the white balance themselves. And those are the main settings we need for shooting, so we'll exit out of the menu. You can find a PDF in the description of the video with a written checklist of these settings if you'd like to see them written out. Next, we'll want to select our shooting mode and tell your camera how you want it to create the exposure. For video mode, as we said, move this lever to be up by the video icon. Then we can set here if we want to be on manual exposure for video, line it up with this white dial. If you want it to be on aperture priority, select AV. TV means shutter speed priority, or P stands for program. This is basically auto, so if you're not sure how to create an exposure at all, you put it on P. For our video settings, as you know, in our menu, we selected 30 frames per second. So what this will always mean is that our shutter speed should be at a 60th of a second. Because in video, our shutter speed always needs to be twice as fast as our frames per second. Which means if we're shooting video, we always know what our shutter speed needs to be. So I would suggest on movie mode, putting the camera in TV, which is shutter speed priority, because we know our shutter speed needs to be a 60th of a second. If you don't know anything else about exposure, either put it in TV or P. If you do know more about exposure, I would put it on M for manual. To select a still photography shooting mode, have this lever be on, and then you can select either manual, aperture priority, shutter priority, or program. Next, let's take a look at a few more settings on the lens. So first of all, if you'd like to shoot in manual focus, then you switch this lever to MF, and then you'll use this front ring to focus the image. If you'd like to use autofocus, switch it to autofocus, and then you'll hold the shutter halfway down to autofocus the image. To zoom in and out, you'll move the zoom ring in and out to change the zoom. You can learn more about zoom and focal length in our other videos. Again, to focus the image, you hold the shutter button halfway down. A green box will appear and it'll make a beeping noise when it's in focus. To change the point of focus, I can just touch the touch screen and then hold this halfway down. If the image can't focus, the box will turn red. This is usually because you are too close to your subject, so either zoom the lens out or physically move further away, and then the focus should work. To see the image, you can either look at the back of the screen or you can look through the eyepiece. To switch between them, you press this live view button right here. So now the image is in the viewfinder and the back is telling us our settings. If I press that again, the image will now be on the back of the screen with our settings around the edges, and our viewfinder will be blank. If I change my setting to be video, it automatically will go into live view, and if I press this button, it will then be a record button. The back screen can move. So it can flip totally forward so you can see it as a selfie camera. It can rotate and be stored without the screen facing forward, or you can open it, twist it, and have it face you. To take an exposure, press the shutter button all the way down. In movie mode, the shutter button will focus, but it will not start recording because you use this button to start and stop the recording. You also may notice that when you take a picture, it may take just one image or it may take a lot in a row. This is one last shooting mode, is this icon that looks like a bunch of rectangles on top of each other. You'll see that there's single shooting, high speed continuous, low speed continuous, self-timer, etc. So if it's on a continuous shooting mode, it'll take a lot of images in a row. It may accidentally be on this setting, or if you're shooting sports, you may want to be on a setting like this, but most of the time you want it to be on single shooting. Make sure you set it. Single shooting, which just takes one image at a time. To review your images, press the playback button on the back of the camera. You can use these arrows to toggle through your images. If you'd like to delete an image or a video, just press the garbage icon and erase. So on the back of the camera, we can see all of our different settings. And down here is our light meter. Anything that we've set in the menu will show up here. If you know how to create an exposure and you want to shoot on manual, then you can change your shutter speed, aperture, and ISO settings. To do this, you can either press the touch screen and just move it on the screen, or there's a wheel on the top of the camera that you can spin. Once you've selected, press back. You can select your aperture, then press back, and select your ISO. If you would like to use this top wheel to change your settings, it automatically will change the shutter speed. If you'd like the wheel to change your aperture, hold down this little aperture button, and then the wheel will change the f-stop. Then the last step is always to take the memory card out of the camera and take your images off and copy them onto your computer or a memory stick. Then make sure you put the memory card back in, where you can go back into the menu and reformat the camera for the next person if you're feeling friendly. Thank you for joining us for Photography 101. To book an appointment to use our learning labs and photography equipment, go to gwinnettpl.org/meeting-rooms. Please leave your questions in the comments or contact us at learninglabs@gwinnettpl.org.